All right. Now that we've finished chapters 4 and 5, we have our first prophetical end time event. That means we can now start trying to figure out where we are in a sense of a time frame. Our time frame is defined by Daniel 9 verses 24 through 28, which says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built up again, and the wall, even in troublous times. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. For the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, 7 weeks. Well, 70 weeks. This is where it's going to start getting into some math. I apologize ahead of time for what's about to happen, but my writing's not the best. We'll see how it goes. The word for the weeks used here in verse 24 is the word Sheba. Now, a Sheba means a period of 7. It doesn't mean 7 weeks. It just means a period of 7 somethings. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be years, decades, millennia, 7 periods of whatever time frame. Knowing this, we can figure up the first 7. It says, from the command to rebuild Jerusalem to the time the Messiah is 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Well, why didn't they just say that it was 69? I mean, 7 weeks and then 62 weeks. That's 7 plus 62. Why didn't we just say it was 69 weeks? So I looked. And I looked, and finally I ran across a possible explanation. John Gill actually points out that in verse 25, it ends with even in troublous times. If you take from the time of the decree to the time opposition ended from Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem and Nineveh, it would be 49 years. I need a period of 7 somethings. If I take 49 years, and I divide that by 7, because a Sheba is a period of 7, that tells me that, hey, look, I have 7 years per Sheba. Because 49 years, that first week where it says it shall be in troublous times, we need 49, that's 49 years historically, divided by 7, it fits. We have a multiple of 7 that we could work with for a Sheba. The question is, though, will it continue to work? Well, let's see. At the end of the next 62 weeks, we have another event. We have 2 separate events here. That's why they separated into 7 weeks and 62 weeks. At the end of the next 62 weeks, Messiah is cut off, but not for himself. Okay, if he's not being cut off for himself, then who is he being cut off for? Well, that's his sacrifice for us. One thing to note is that the flood here that comes from this is not a flood like the flood of Noah's day. Instead, this flood is a word used as an outburst or overflowing nature. This is So this is not a contradiction to God's promise not to destroy the earth with a flood again. This is a different word that's used here. So we've got 62 weeks. 62 weeks. We know that 1 week, by the theory about Sanballat and all that 1 week is 7 years. 7 years. If we multiply that out, we would get 14, carry our 1, 6 times 7, 42, carry the 1, 434 years. Okay. Now, the problem is that 434 years is linked to the event that started from the decree. So we have to add the other 49 years from the first, the decree coming out in the troublous times. So that gives us 483 years. There you go. 483 years that would have to occur from the time the decree went out to the time the Messiah was cut off. Let's see if it adds up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. If that was 7 days in a Sheba, though, it would have only been 483 days, and Jerusalem was not restored in that time, nor was Jesus cut off. So it definitely can't be by days. If it was weeks, it would be 3,381 days. Again, that does not fit the timeline, because while Jerusalem was restored, we don't get the second half of the prophecy where the Messiah is cut off. So if we go by years, we need to reach 483 years. Okay. So 176,295 days. Because we've got 365 days in the year. But that's way too many. From the time that Artaxerxes sent out the decree to the time the Messiah was cut off, if we consider Jesus to be the Messiah, that's way too many days. Because Artaxerxes sent out the decree to declare Jerusalem, and it has been found historically, would be March 14th, 455 BC by our calendar. Cool. The Jews, however, which are the people writing this, did not have a calendar with 365 days. Their calendar was 360 days because they used the I can't remember if it was the lunar or the solar calendar, but there were 30 days per month every time. So if we get the Jewish calendar, which was the calendar being used when it was described as a Sheba, then that gives us 173,880 days. And yes, I do have this math down in my notes on my screen over here. I just still have to find it within all the writing and all my notes. And at first glance, this would mean our calendar is wrong. Because if we look at the date we have the Messiah coming in and translate it to our calendar, that would be April 6th, AD 32. From the first date to this date is 477 years and 24 days. That's only 163,164 days. This is where we are right now. 173,764 days. However, remember, our total we need is 173,880 days. Those are not the same number. We can't, it doesn't work. But, there's a problem with this math. We don't have a 0 AD. So, instead of 477 years and 24 days, we have 476 years and 24 days, which is where we get the 173,764. Sorry, my math was off on the other one when I did the 477 years and 24 days. Miscalculated. Hang on. When we had the 477 years, it was 174,129 days. There's so much math in here, I wrote down the wrong number. I wrote down the same number twice instead of, my apologies about that. So, this does get us closer than 174,129, where we're like 300 some odd days off. And now we're only off by 36 days. That's not too bad, right? Well, we're still off though. Our calendar has something weird that happens every 4 years called a leap year. So we have to add one day every 4 years that we've had in this 476 years. Don't you love time and math? So if we do that, we find out there are 119 leap days that we have to add. And if you add 119 days to 173,764 days, we get 173,883 days. Off by 3 days. Oh, wait. Note that you used the solar calendar. We're using the Julian calendar, so we have one more discrepancy between the two calendars. And that is a discrepancy of 1/128th of a day. So every 128 years of that 476, we have to subtract a day. That's 3 times. So when you subtract the 3 solar day differences, you end up with 173,880 days, which is exactly historically how many days we need for the cutting off of the Messiah to have occurred. Yeah. Love it when math and history actually add up. So that's the exact same number of days. That all said brings us to this last week. Now, if we're talking about 70 Sheba, and we have it broken down into 7, 62, and 1, if the first 69 weeks are all 7 years, then this last week must be 7 years. As you can see from our math though, our years are inaccurate because we don't use the same calendar. So I went ahead and did the math. There's 360 days per year on the solar calendar, which was what this Sheba was written under, which means our last prophecy of Daniel 9, right, Daniel 9? Yeah, Daniel 9, is 2,520 days, or 6.9 of our years. We'll pick up next time with seeing where within this 2,520 days It looks like we are in Revelations 4 and 5.